Hey, thank you for joining me. Hope you're doing well. The Gnostics were ancient religious mystics who proclaimed gnosis, the Greek word for knowledge, as the way to salvation. To truly realize one's own spiritual essence allowed Gnostic men and women to know the divine directly, without any need for gurus, priests, or other religious figureheads. Gnosticism started around the same time as Christianity, but by the 4th century, the Gnostics were considered heretics, and they became actively suppressed by the Church. Gnostics extracted wisdom from many different sources, texts, and modes of consciousness, accepting insight wherever it could be found. Much of what they did was to get to the truth of this existence and to piece together what exactly happened to form this world we live in. The Gnostic view of the world is unlike any other mythology, and in my opinion, is the most accurate perception of the universe and its story. By the end of this presentation, I will have explained how the Gnostics knew exactly what they were talking about in their understanding of the world, and I will relate it to everything I've been describing in my videos. The Black Sun, the Mother Goddess, Hyperborea, and this matrix we are all living in. The Gnostics claimed that there was a supreme transcendent deity called the monad, or the One. The One is where all consciousness sprang from. In New Age circles, we call this Source. Everything is a part of Source, meaning everything initially came from the One. This deity should not be confused with a god, since it is a greater concept than a god and cannot be personified as such. The One manifests itself in a heavenly realm of light called the Pleroma. The Pleroma is also called the emanations of the Father, the treasuries of light, and the immeasurable deep. These emanations coming from the One are called eons. Eons, like the One, aren't exactly beings. They're spiritual attributes and concepts of the One. These eons, this pleromic matter, is aspects of consciousness itself. They're often personified and given names, joined together as spiritual lovers in the fullness of the One. The pleroma is the totality of the 30 eons. The first 8 eons, called the Ogdode, gave way to another 10 eons called the Decade, which brought forth another 12 called the Dodecade. The last of the eons to be brought forth was Sophia. Of all the eons, the divine Sophia desired most intensely to know the origins of her own creation and the nature of the One. Seeking understanding, she let out an emanation of desire called Sophia Ekamoth that fell into a fit of confusion. For the rest of this video, we will simply call this emanation Sophia. Sophia descended into chaos and created a world of her own. She became entangled in matter, and from this entanglement, she produced what's called the demiurge. Some say she formed this being to try and replicate the One. In monotheistic religions, God is not the One. He is the demiurge, often referred to in Gnostic texts as Yaldabaoth. The demiurge is described as ignorant, power-hungry, and foolish. He sees himself as the One, but he doesn't do this out of malice. Rather, Sophia shielded him. Being ashamed of her deed of separation and her new creation, Sophia wrapped the demiurge in a cloud and created a throne for him within it. Because of this, the demiurge did not see Sophia nor any other eon, and thus concluded that he was the One, the true source. Being enveloped in his own false heavenly realm, he was unable to know the source of his power. Yaldabaoth is the first ruler who took great power from his mother. Then he left her and moved away from the realms where he was born. He mated with the mindlessness that is in him, and produced his own authorities. These authorities are the archons. They are the servants of the demiurge. The archons are like the eons, the emanations coming from the One, but instead of being divine, they are lower astral beings, emanations coming from the demiurge. They are not directly from the One, and therefore are a sort of inorganic, artificial intelligence. Our contest is not against flesh and blood, rather the authorities of the demiurge and the spirits of wickedness. Their chief is blind. Because of his power and his ignorance and his arrogance, he said with his power, "It is I who am God. There is none apart from me." His thoughts became blind, and having expelled his power, that is, the blasphemy he had spoken, he pursued it down to chaos and the abyss, his mother, at the instigation of Pistis Sophia. And she established each of his offspring in conformity with its power after the pattern of the realms that are above. This text shows that Sophia wanted to replicate the upper eons, just like wanting to replicate the One with the demiurge, but ended up with the archons. Archon in Greek means rulers, and this is because these entities aim to rule over the thought forms and thus the actions of humanity. They manipulate us in the form of negative thoughts and motivations. Many Gnostics believe the demiurge created the earth as we know it, but this is kind of inaccurate. Matter is an expression of Sophia, and when the demiurge sprang forth, he took this matter, forming earth. But earth isn't a creation of the demiurge, it's the manipulation of Sophia's creative essence. Gaia, the Greek earth goddess, who we know in the West as Mother Earth, is an expression of Sophia that began when she fell to the material. The demiurge manipulated and took credit for this expression and assumed the role of the supreme god. So just to be clear, Mother Earth is a divine feminine force, a part of Sophia, and it's the demiurge who took this essence and bound it by matter, space, and time. Sophia is not only an entity, but personified wisdom. Sophia is the feminine principle that represents the divine in this world, fallen from light above, yet present as the light with and within us. We are aspects of Sophia being played out in this matrix, and thus when each of us reconnect with our own divine potential, we connect with Sophia, with wisdom, and through that connection, help Sophia reconnect with the One. In the Gnostic mind, the Christ is the divine revealer that awakens us from the spell of the demiurge. What happens in the spirit manifests in the physical. As above, so below. The Christ was a physical man and a set of principles that lie dormant within each of us. Whether he was a real man or not does not matter. Those who embrace the principles of Christ become filled with the seed of the One, the true source. Throughout Gnostic texts, Jesus makes this point. I came to reveal light, so that you can find that light within yourselves. For when you have found it, you will enter into it, and you will know that your source is within you. In the Bible, Jesus is also an allegory for the sun above our heads. I explained in my video on the flat earth dome how we are literally the sun. The sun is the summation of our individual auras, shining down on us, our higher selves right above our heads. On this flat plane, the black sun and white sun are two expressions of the same entity. They are the same sun. I've said in previous videos, they are Ra and Amun, the Egyptian personifications of the two suns, who make up the dual entity Amun-Ra. Translated, Amun means the hidden one. This is because the black sun is out of our immediate perception. Sophia is the black sun. The black sun is the cosmic womb of this realm, the direct experience and expression of the primordial feminine force. Check out my video, The Primordial Womb, for a full explanation. So Jesus is the sun, and his feminine half, the black sun, the womb of creation, is Sophia. They are one and the same. And this is why Jesus said, "She is Sophia, my sister, my consort, my feminine half." Mainstream Christianity would have us believe that Christ was only a physical man who must be worshipped to gain external approval and achieve salvation. It's an intentional distortion of the Christ nature that lies dormant within. When we activate our own Christ consciousness, we align ourselves with the Christ and his feminine half, Sophia, who is wisdom. Upon performing this internal work, we clear ourselves of the rule of the archons and the demiurge, and listen to our own divine essence and its needs. We were birthed into this world from our mother's dark womb, just like we were initially birthed from the womb of Sophia, the Black Sun. It's more than likely that we came here through the Black Sun to help Sophia ascend back to the One. We are fragments of Source inhabiting human bodies, underneath all this flesh still connected to the One. We initially came here to merge with the Divine Feminine Force and help Sophia ascend. However, the Demiurge and his Archons implanted the moon in the sky, and its interdimensional light trap recycles those who enter it upon death back into this physical realm, with no memory of ourselves or our purpose. And many of us, because of this, have lost sense of our original mission. It's an energy extraction matrix we're in which the Archons can run rampant and further the spiritual confusion of humanity. These originally divine bodies were genetically altered at some point in our timeline. When and by who doesn't really matter. We were somehow infused with reptilian genes to give us a more fight or flight, beast-like nature. And this is why we have what's called a reptilian complex. The reptilian complex is responsible for fear, aggression, and dominance, the same toxic masculine principles that are expressed in our current reality. We live in a realm illuminated by two distinct suns. At the center, where all compasses point to, is an exit hole from this part of flat Earth to a parallel land. In this land lies the Black Sun, which emits a divine green light that shoots out of the center hole as the aurora borealis. Beyond this visible astral light is where we find Hyperborea. Hyperborea is the name of an ancient Greek paradise. The word itself means beyond the aurora borealis. Hyperborea is free of death, famine, war, and disease. Those who live there are in perpetual higher consciousness, harnessing the sacred green astral light, which is sometimes called Vril. In the book The Coming Race, Edward Bulwer Lytton describes a harmonious subterranean race of superbeings powered by this Vril energy. The Vrilia unite in a conviction of a future state, more felicitous and more perfect than the present. They have no systems of rewards and punishments among themselves. They believe that it is one of the properties of the all-permeating agency of Vril to transmit to the wellspring of life and intelligence every thought that a living creature can conceive. The intellectual conditions and social systems of this subterranean race comprise and harmonize great. To fully describe Hyperborea, also called Agartha, would be to describe a land beyond the limits of ordinary subjective experience. This realm is not restricted by the circles of reincarnation that the Demiurge's false light has plagued this place with. Earth as we know it is ruled by the Demiurge and the Archons, but Hyperborea is not under their domain. The author Miguel Serrano echoes this. Hyperborea means beyond Boreas. Boreas is a god, son of the Titan Astrio and the goddess Aurora, which is to say he is Hyperboreas, something beyond that god. Boreas is also a wind, the boreal or north wind. The Demiurge is in fact a respiration, a pneuma, a pleroma. Hyperborea means beyond the Demiurge. Some interpretations of the Pelasgians' creation myth involve the god Ophion as a serpent created by a supreme goddess called Eurynome. In the beginning, Eurynome, the goddess of all things, rose naked from chaos, but found nothing substantial for her feet to rest upon. She danced towards the south, and the wind set in motion behind her seemed something new and a part with which to begin a work of creation. Wheeling about, she caught hold of this north wind, rubbed it between her hands, and behold, the great serpent Ophion. Eurynome danced to warm herself, wildly and more wildly, until Ophion, grown lustful, coiled about those divine limbs and was moved to couple with her. Next, she assumed the form of a dove, brooding on the waves, and in due process of time laid the universal egg. At her bidding, Ophion coiled 7 times about this egg, until it hatched and split in 2. Out tumbled all things that exist, her children. Eurynome and Ophion made their home upon Mount Olympus, where he vexed her by claiming to be the author of the universe. As you can see, this creation story has striking similarities to the Gnostic tale of Sophia and the Demiurge. In this story, Ophion is synonymous with Boreas, leading us to the same conclusion that Hyperborea, the land of paradise beyond the aurora borealis, also means beyond Ophion, beyond the demiurge. So in this myth, Eurynomy sprang from the void of chaos. The common Greek creation story claims, in the beginning there was only chaos, then out of the void appeared Erebus, the unknowable place where death dwells and night. Then love was born, bringing along the beginning of order. From love emerged light, followed by Gaia, the earth. You probably already know what I'm getting at. The divine feminine force and ultimately our earth spirit, Gaia, sprang from the womb, from Sophia, the black sun. Like I said earlier, the Hebrew, Christian, and Muslim God is really the demiurge. The original Sabbath, the day to praise the monotheistic God, was on Saturday. The 7 days of the week are named by different heavenly bodies, personified by individual deities. Saturday is named after the Roman god Saturn. This is no coincidence. Saturn is the demiurge. The Grim Reaper, the personification of death, was originally the Roman god Saturn, who is often shown holding a scythe, just like the Reaper. The Greek equivalent of Saturn is Cronus, god of time, and this is why older depictions of the Grim Reaper show a clock. The Grim Reaper is Cronus, the god of time, who is Saturn. And Saturn, as we just explored, is the demiurge. The reason the Grim Reaper is Death himself is because he is Father Time. Time is a construct imposed on this physical realm by the demiurge. We are hyperbound to the enslavement and construct of time, and thus we are bound to physical death. Ptolemy the Gnostic created the first Ptolemaic view of the universe. In this model, it shows Earth at the center, encased by different realms named by our planets. This model was initially made as a representation of the relationships existing between the various divine elements of the realms. These realms are on top of one another, all produced by the black sun. But this Gnostic model was taken and eventually transformed into the idea of space, as modern science tells us, that these realms are literal circular planets within what is a physical solar system. It shows Saturn at the top, underneath the dark void. Saturn is where we get the word Satan from. They're the same words, one early Latin and the other late Latin. So the demiurge is Satan, and Satan, Saturn, is in a realm that sits above all the expressions of Sophia. He is enveloped in his own realm on top, and therefore believes he is the one. In previous videos, I've said that Saturn is the holographic projector of this reality. I still stand by this, and in the Gnostic view, it holds up. The demiurge took matter, the expression of Sophia, and formed it into the world. And because this world is essentially not real, a complex hologram, you could say the demiurge is both an entity and a sort of computer that projects the codes which organize themselves as what we know as physical reality. Lucifer is often seen as a masculine evil deity who is synonymous with Satan, but I'm about to show that Lucifer is Sophia, the black sun. When Sophia was a part of the Pleroma, she was the personification of the wisdom in the mind of the Source, of the One. You could say she was one of the most beautiful of the Pleroma, just like Lucifer is often considered to be one of God's most beautiful angels. Like Lucifer, Sophia fell from heaven as a sort of divine rebel. The elite love to invert everything, so what was originally a feminine deity, they transformed into a masculine one. They changed Sophia into Lucifer, made her a him, defiling her feminine generative abilities, turning it into a story that coincides with evil. Therefore, when some worship Lucifer, they're worshipping the inversion of Sophia, and not the actual goddess herself. Lucifer is not Satan. Satan, as I explained, is the demiurge. Lucifer is the black sun. The Emerald of Lucifer, associated with stories of the Holy Grail, is said to be a fragment of the crown that was cast along with Lucifer upon falling from heaven. This emerald stone represents the divine emanation, the emerald light, that comes from the black sun. Lucifer is often referred to as the light bringer, and it is the black sun, Sophia, the cosmic womb, who brings forth all light into this realm. Hyperborea is not a long-lost place. It still exists through the center vortex at the true North Pole. It's beyond the control of the demiurge, a true paradise. Me and thousands of others are engaging in a practice called blood over intent. This place we're living in is an interactive realm that goes up and down depending on where the majority give their intentions, thoughts, actions, and beliefs. Blood magic speeds up our intentions, and we are bringing forth heaven on earth. For those of you who do recognize the power of blood over intent, write down, "I intend to bring forth heaven on earth." Prick your finger. You can do it painlessly with a lancing device. Put a few drops over your written intent, and then upload it to the internet, which is directly connected to the etheric plane. Everyone who is spilling their blood over these divine intents are releasing the spell of the demiurge. And when we get enough people who have spilled their blood, we will have caused the fabric of this matrix to open up by way of this alchemy. And eventually, me and my blood brethren will take a journey to the center and enter Hyperborea by navigation of our compasses. The gathering period is now. Blood over intent is our way into paradise. Death is not an option for us. Those who do not come with us will surely die a physical death, as is the prescription of the Grim Reaper, the demiurge who has superimposed time. Time does not exist in the same capacity in the lands beyond the vortex. If you want to live and come with us past the flaming sword, I recommend you not only use your divine intent throughout your life, but align it with your blood. This will be your key into paradise. We can do it, guys. We can exit this place and into the realm powered by Sophia, the black sun. Thank you for watching. I hope you're all staying well and centered. I love you all.